the video.
Want to read? Come on, read the beat. It's fine.
Name is Lou Pedoso, president.
All right, that's the end of the.
One simple but brilliant trick to heat your home. Save thousands of dollars.
All right, so we do have some contact information. That's the end of the presentation, but we mainly focus our programming around advocacy, storytelling, implementing policies through other partners to make sure we amplify these things and people at the legislative know how important it is to provide reproductive health care to prevent. So this is our miracle baby. This year he was 1 pound 11 ounces, stood in the hospital for 148 days, came home on oxygen for 5 months, and now he here today.
It's really beautiful. We're gonna have council members make comments. Councilmember Thomas?
First of all, I don't know that if I've ever been more proud. Yeah, you're right, man. You know, for years when we see each other, we call each other uncle and niece, and it's been like family, Bree. But when I think about your journey in this issue, I remember in the early '90s, Andre, when Great Expectations talked about infant mortality, and especially infant mortality in the African American community and what happens to the families. And so that was 30+ years ago, but we still haven't dedicated the resources. And then a few years ago, with the Williams sister, and Beyonce and many prominent African American women and what they go through in terms of giving birth and the impact. And there's so many things that trend now, but you don't see the resources. And then Bree, I think about you that day at Loyola Law School on the panel with DBI. And if you remember, my son Lyle was in the audience and he walked down to the panel and sat on the panel. And I think about God, Andre picks the right people and the right one for the right mission, right? And then I think about talking to your dad when you were dealing with your pregnancy and then seeing you afterwards and seeing the despair on your face and not knowing what you could do. And Andres, someone I buried, my son, right? So it's nothing you ever get over, right? But what God has given y'all the chance to do is your daughter will live through the work that y'all do for other families and other kids. So whatever we can do to deal with it, just like we did with the other stuff before. I think God has the right angels and the right servants. And God picked the right people to not just bring attention to this issue, but to bring the resources to it. So we stand ready, whatever, and I'm so proud of y'all, because remember that, every day is an opportunity, to value life, even to those we've lost, by what we do for others. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Yes.
I thank you, Bree and Kendra and Andre, for the work that you've chosen to do. And as Councilman mentioned, Asani's name will live on as helping other people. It's a sensitive issue to discuss, and I know that there's so much that we still have to do in society, not so much just on a council level, but in society. But in the little time that I've been in office, one of the most memorable in a negative way moments was when I went to Louisa Street one day for a party at a park. And there were some children on the park. They were playing on the park. There was a little football game going on. But there was also decorations at a house that was across the street from the park.
Mhm.
And those decorations had the picture of a child. And I thought that the decorations for the picture of the child were because of the child's birth. And unfortunately, it was because of the child's death. The child had died within a year, and they were, if you will, having a memorial, but it was with balloons. It was a celebration of the short life that was lived. But it does remind you that there's a lot that goes on in our communities that we can't see. And I tell you, I've raised 3 children in the city, and I don't know too many who have lost children in childbirth, or a mother who has lost her life in childbirth. But interestingly enough, I do know one. And I know that when you combine that and look throughout the state and throughout the city, it tells you that we have a serious problem still that we have to address. So I just want to thank you and the Asani Heartbeat Foundation, you all, for working. And our health department is committed. We have, as a council, funded, for example, a visitation program that is going to allow that someone goes to the home of everyone who is given birth within a short period of time. I know that that's part of what needs to be done. Prenatal care and whatever the city can do, we can never waste money on that, because whatever money we spend is very valuable. So it won't be a waste of money. Maybe sometimes, you know, we need ideas, and the health department is open to ideas. It would never be considered to be, you know, money not well spent that's doing something very positive like that. So just let us know sometimes, but know that our heart is here. Know that the health department is focused on infant mortality, and that those visits are important. But I do recognize the work that you've done. It's hard for me to say much to you because you've experienced so much. But that experience of me thinking that there was a party going on with pictures and balloons and finding out what it was really brought home to me the reality of us having to do everything that we can to work to reduce infant mortality and, you know, to provide more maternal care in our life and society. So, but again, thank you for the work that you do. And I know that we'll see you more often. We'll be working together.
Definitely. Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Andre, I want to particularly speak to you. I actually served on the Patient Advisory Board at Children's before I went on the council, and it is probably one of the most gratifying initiatives one can be on. I remember when I was there, it was right when they were building the new hospital, and having parents of patients involved in that process. I remember at one point, one of the parents that I was working with, they were designing the rooms and the door jambs had a lip. And this parent said, "What if you got a wheelchair?" And literally Children's redesigned every doorway without the lip so that people can get in and out of them with wheelchairs, because so many kids have mobility issues.
Right.
But to your point, when you said that comment about why is there one chair instead of 2, I think more hospitals need parent and patient advisory boards, because these are problems that can be solved both on the front end and the back end if you're talking to people who utilize the hospital.
Right.
My wife is actually a pediatric oncology nurse at Children's, and she spends a lot of time in the NICU. And I can tell you honestly, your story is so powerful because as a legislator for a very long time with Council Vice President Moreno, we always see these really crazy ideas to spend money, and we used to call them solutions in search of problems. Where they'd say, oh, we gotta go pass this law because this thing might happen 20 years down the line. We gotta spend this money here over this crazy social issue because it might happen. What you're describing with Asani Heartbeat Foundation is a problem in search of a solution. You've identified the problem. It is a real problem. I mean, we've had years as a society to study implicit bias and other things that make it very difficult for African Americans, for Black people to navigate the healthcare environment. We know these are problems, and yet we don't have movement on taking the information you've collected and doing solutions.
Right.
Right.
And just your tenacity and your grit in continuing to push and to make sure people are aware of the things that are happening. I mean, it's really inspiring. And anything that we can do as a council will be helpful. I'm happy to work with y'all to get you more in contact with our local legislators, because this is really an issue where the city certainly is doing its part to try and address it. But we really got to get to congressional and state partners to supercharge what y'all are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
To really get them to understand, as you noted in your presentation, it's not a problem unique to New Orleans. It's a problem that New Orleanians are trying to solve for everybody,
Right.
and your foundation is trying to solve. So I'm happy to work with the council vice president to get you with some of our local legislators to really push some legislation and funding opportunities at the state level, because as we've always said, if we're gonna be a pro-life state, which apparently is what we are, you gotta put money into saving babies.
That's for sure.
And there seems to be a lot of rhetoric about wanting to wade into issues like that, but there's never any funding following that rhetoric
Right.
to support programs, to reach out to people that are at risk, to reach out to vulnerable communities like ours and help them. So happy to work with you. Extremely impressed with the work you've done this far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The juxtaposition of these two babies here who are just bringing so much joy to Councilmember Jerusha and I with the problems that you've identified is stark. And I think what you said about this being an issue not only for parents or for mothers, but that impacts the entire family. Your son is going to grow up knowing that he had a sister
Right.
that died after
8 days.
8 days. And so, you know, I think we need to make sure that we understand as a community that we need to lift up parents who've lost children, but we also need to lift up their siblings, their families, their grandparents, everybody around them, because it does take a community effort. And I think what you're hearing from everybody up here is that we are more than happy to work with you to make sure that we find solutions to ensure that this doesn't happen continuously in the future, because it does impact Black women, Black and brown women the most. And as the only Black woman up here, we need to ensure that we are moving forward in a positive way. So thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. And you said something that kind of triggered what I wanted to mention earlier about supporting on the front end, because when a lot of women are high risk pregnancy due to like previously pregnancies, but also when you're expecting with multiples, you automatically high risk, right? So I found out pretty early. I was expecting at 4 weeks. 5 weeks, I found out it was twins, which is ironic. A lot of people usually don't find out that early. But yeah, 5 weeks, I found out I was expecting with twins, and I was high risk pregnant. And I still didn't get a chance to see the high risk doctor until I was 6 months. And I've delivered at 6 months. That shouldn't happen. I found out really early. A lot of people don't find out until 3-4 months. I found out at 5 weeks. I should have been seeing a high risk doctor immediately. I didn't see the high risk doctor until a week before I delivered the twins at 24 weeks. That's a problem. That's a problem. That shouldn't happen. I don't want that to happen to no more people. But like JP said, we have to go and talk to the legislators. We got to figure out how we address that, because if you're high risk pregnancy, that means you have a lot of signs, early signs and prevention that could prevent these things from happening. And being more equipped for if something does happen and educating people on a NICU if they're gonna deliver babies early instead of seeing your baby in the incubator with 500 wires for the first time and not understanding if you could touch your baby. So that's a problem, but I just wanted to touch on that because you kind of made me remember.
Well, good morning. I just want to say what beautiful children Roman and Asari are, and good case in candy too, that Roman has. We were showing it to each other during the presentation. And he's a good hide and seek player too, by the way. You know, Andre, what you said something to me that really resonates, and I think it's something that's so important to all of us. Time is the real currency. I mean, you can figure out money, you can figure out replacing things, but one thing you never get back is time. And this is an urgent and an important issue. And any babies who are lost are one too many. Bree talking about kind of like the grief that you experience as a parent, that you are going to go through. I mean, even having a living embodiment of having one twin and not having the other twin, it's just a constant reminder of the trauma that you've experienced and that you will go through. I think speaks to the fact that knowing, as Councilmember Moreno laid out, there's all these statistics, but you all aren't statistics. You're people. And we all collectively need to make sure we're working on solving this problem as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Bree, thank you for your presentation and thank you for your advocacy. As we've discussed, you know, here in the city of New Orleans, we allocate, and we started this last year, about $1.5 million toward a maternal health program where, as we've said, it's not sufficient enough because it's on the back end. It's once the baby's been born, right? But what can we do beforehand? I learned so much from you all on just the educational pieces that are absolutely necessary for mothers to understand what potentially could be coming their way. And so I'm going to have conversations with Dr. Avegno as to like, how can we expand the program here in New Orleans and what potential funding looks like for that. But, you know, Council President Morale is absolutely right. So much of this has to do with the state of Louisiana, with the legislature and the priorities of the state of Louisiana, because this isn't just a New Orleans problem. You know, this is all across the state. This is really something all across the country, which is why at the same time, we also need to bring in our congressional leaders. But, you know, you all took a beyond painful situation with your family. And you decided to do all possible to make sure that this doesn't happen to others. And I am so incredibly appreciative of the sacrifice and work that you are doing on behalf of many children. And of course, on behalf of Asani as well. So thank you for this. We'll continue working together. And I do have a proclamation for you, honoring the work that you're doing. And it reads, for the Asani Heartbeat Foundation, in recognition of your advocacy and work on behalf of women and families to address systemic racism against women of color and to advance reproductive justice and empower the community to combat infant and maternal mortality. And it's signed by all 7 members of the New Orleans City Council. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We'll take a picture of you.
Okay.
Yes. I appreciate it.
The third order of business, a presentation to New Orleans Center for Dance. Gregory Curtis, Board Chair, New Orleans Ballet Association. Jenny Hamilton, Executive Director, the New Orleans Ballet Association. Francesca Morton, Development Manager, New Orleans Ballet Association. Updates from the New Orleans Center for Dance, including 2023 Nutcracker performance.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. While everyone gets settled, I just want to go ahead and set the scene. The New Orleans Ballet Association has dedicated years of its time to making the art of dance accessible to underserved families in New Orleans and the surrounding areas. NOBA has managed to serve over 30,000 people with their programming, performances, education, and community service opportunities. Giving creative freedom to those of all ages, the New Orleans Ballet Association continues to be a gem in the community and to all who love and appreciate the art of dance. And on a personal note, I just want to say that I so enjoy the performances, and I'm so happy, Gregory, that you have introduced me to NOBA. I knew of it, but I have never been to this many performances in my life, and it just really brings joy and peace in an otherwise hectic time. So thank you. And if you could introduce yourselves, and I know you have a presentation as well.
Thank you. Jenny, go ahead.
Hi, Jenny Hamilton, the Executive Director.
I'm Gregory Curtis. I'm the Board Chair, and we'll wait on Millette, who's now handing out our beautiful decorated ornaments from our students.
Okay, thank you.
I am Board Chair, newly elected to the ballet, no stranger to the ballet board, been there too many years to count now. over 20, but I was recently elected board chair. Pleasure to be here today. We'll be brief. We know that you have a long agenda and it's been a long morning already. The New Orleans Ballet Association has been performing in this community for over 50 years, and we bring just wonderful classical and contemporary ballet to our main stage at Mahalia Jackson every year. And I'm going to allow the ladies to tell you more about our program. And it's before Jenny gets started, Millette and Francesca, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Millette Lynn. I'm the education manager with NOVA. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Francesca Martin, development manager with NOVA. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Jenny.
So we're here primarily to talk about this Nord Nova Center for Dance. And of course, this was a partnership that was established in 1992. And we can proudly say that we have been operating the partnership ever since. We were the first partner back with Nord in 2006 following Katrina. And of course, during COVID, when the mayor said in May of 2020 that she wanted programs to return to the centers, in June of 2020, we were there as well. So we've never stopped serving and being partners with the community. It was founded in 1992 by collaboration of the mayor's office, the city council, and NOVA, with a press conference that took place on September 23rd at Berman Center. And the partnership was created to leverage resources between Nord and NOVA to ensure greater service to the community. So for our youth, we provide youth with the opportunity to develop self-esteem, self-discipline, cultural awareness, and access to greater career opportunities through exposure to dance. And the pictures you're seeing now, about 3 of those became professional dancers. The impact is wide. We serve about 30,000 plus participants with all of our programs annually, with more than 5,000 tuition-free classes and outreach activities annually. Since 1992, over $9 million worth of classes have been provided to more than 31,000 people through over 80,000 activities by just our organization. Our internationally recognized education, health, and wellness programs educate, train, and nurture individuals ages 40 to 80 plus. And we do this through numerous neighborhood sites, primarily Nord. What this program does do is it establishes a very clear pathway for a child. So a child can come to one of many Nord sites as early as 4 years old and receive tuition-free training all the way up to age 18. There's never, ever been a charge for tuition, for auditions, for costumes, to perform, and uniforms are provided to students with need. Our current youth enrollment for the fall of 2023 is over 500. In 2007, we also, prior to that, had just been doing youth. And in 2007, Nord came to us, which happened to be Larry Barabino at the time, and said, we want to start doing programs for senior citizens again in the Nord centers because this was post-COVID, post-Katrina, and there were no activities for seniors. And even though we had no experience in working with the senior population before, we of course took that upon us because Nord asked us to. So we developed this program for this dance and health wellness program for senior citizens. And that has continued ever since 2008. We've never stopped. And it currently is being offered twice a week, year-round at Lions, Morris FX Jeff, and Joe Brown Rec Centers. And they've actually competed in the Senior Olympics, and they've been winners in the dance team categories. They get guest artists when these artists come in town, choreography. Right now, the enrollment of senior citizens, over 200 senior citizens are coming to these programs, and their ages 55 to 80 plus. We operate programs in every single council-managed district. In District A, of course, Gernon Brown Rec Center weekly, and the photo at the bottom you see is a holiday December performance. Every single December, performances take place with all the students and their families, completely free of charge at every single center. So this was one of these December performances, and it's called the December Neighborhood Concert Series. And the one at Gernon Brown this year, of course, is December the 5th. And also at Tulane University weekly schedule, we partner with Tulane University. They open up their studios every single weekend. And we have pre-professional classes there, as well as they offer Dixon Hall for the Nutcracker Suite. for the Center for Dance Spring Concert. And we do 5 weeks of programming with internationally renowned guest artists in June and July for our most advanced students. And that partnership has been in place as well for over 20 years. In District B, Lion Center, Rosenwald Center, and the New Orleans JCC. And of course, New Orleans JCC is another very specific program, is the Dance for Parkinson's program that takes place there. And that's just been 6 years of that program. And that's a fun and free creative movement program, especially designed for people living with Parkinson's. So it's all about training our youth, but also dance and the art of movement as a way of healing and providing health-related benefits for our population. And the Lions Rec Center schedule over 40 classes and rehearsals every single week take place there. And of course, it's the home to our internationally renowned pre-professional program. District C, Cutoff, Morris FX Jeff, Stallings Rec, and Treme Centers all take place every single week. And the photo you see at the top left is Jalen Robinson. She started with us when she was about 9 years old in one of the centers and traveled with us to New York performing, and now she's teaching with us. And Councilmember Green, so happy to be at the Desire Florida Multi-Service Center this year with early childhood and preparatory ballet classes. And District E with Joe Brown Rec Center, probably our largest senior dance fitness program at the Joe Brown Rec Center, and very happy to be there as well. And we're there from the very beginning, Joe Brown, and so happy to be there. And of course, the Nutcracker Suite, that's what you all received invitations. We hope you will join us. And that is a very special performance. It's not a normal Nutcracker. This is not a cash cow for this organization as it is for a lot of quote traditional ballet companies or ballet organizations. All of the roles are done by either our students, our youth, and we created a grandparents dance in the party scene so that our senior citizens are performing with us as well. So it's an intergenerational performance. It's 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it is a Nutcracker Suite. So it's perfect for the entire family, for all ages, and it's very uniquely brought to life. So the pre-professional students do all the soloist roles, and some of the centers are assigned roles such as mice and soldiers. They rehearse in their centers, and just the day before the actual performance on December 2nd, the entire production is put together for the very first time. So it's over 100 participants from the North Nova Center for Dance, and they represent every single district within the city. And we're so very proud of this production. It is absolutely fabulous, as you can see from the pictures. So please join us for that. The recognition this program has received, of course, up on the top left was First Lady Barbara Bush. And we went up to the White House to receive a very prestigious Coming Up Taller Award, a national award by the White House, National Endowment for the Arts, national touring. Our students have performed at the Kennedy Center, Jacobs Pillar Dance Festival, at the Spoleto Festival in South Carolina. And then, of course, we've been invited by my companies like Complexions Contemporary Ballet, Parsons Dance, and Ballet Hispanico to perform at their galas in New York City, which is very rare. These are their particular fundraising galas in New York City at the Joyce Theater, at the Plaza Hotel, wherever they're held. And our students are the only non-professional dancers as part of that gala for all of their constituencies up in New York. So this is a very proud moment for all of us that our youth here in New Orleans, from a tuition-free dance program at recreation centers, is representing the city in such a unique and very high-profile way.
Yeah. Councilwoman Harris, I approached you about this because it's so important that we speak to you. You've heard so much about the summer youth employment program, and I'm pleased to say it was expanded to include us this year, and it went seamless. It went well. We were able to bring in some of our students who are now in college to come in and assist with the summer youth program that Millette runs at the Norwood Centers. I just want you to know what's going on in your district, because one of the first things as board chair, I said, we need to make sure our message goes out at the good things that we're doing, not only in the city, but also in your district, so you can go back and tell your constituents about our program so they can get involved. It is just, it's very important and it's, to me personally, but it's heartwarming. I know for you to see these great things going on in your district, not only with youth, but with Parkinson's and with the seniors. And we'll continue to build on these programs to make sure that they benefit the community at large.
And also the last thing, Gregory, want to make sure you knew about is our main stage series of dance. Of course, these are internationally renowned companies that we bring to the city of New Orleans. We just had a production a couple of weekends ago with Complexions Contemporary Ballet in a world premiere. This was a work that we commissioned. We brought in Chief Adua back to the city to perform with Complexions Contemporary Ballet. It is a work that Complexions now will have part of their repertory. They're performing the work in New York City in just a couple of weeks. They will perform it throughout the world when they tour. So Chief's music will then be spread in New Orleans love all over the world as Complexions tours. In January, we have the National Dance Company of Spain. We will be kicking off the North American tour of their very special Spanish choreographers program. And on the Friday night prior, we'll be doing an opening reception, welcoming them here at the Cabildo. And then in March, La Ballet de Monte Carlo will be bringing their Swan Lake. We're very honored to say that we will be the only city in America to get this production to the city. They will be bringing it directly from Monaco to New Orleans. It will go nowhere else. So we'll go back to Monaco. So that's a huge honor for us. And then in April, we're going to reunite the Alan Toussaint Orchestra with Parsons Dance. This is a work that we commissioned in 2014 and it was premiered. And of course, the year later, we lost Alan. And so Reginald has the orchestra. They will be joining Parsons Dance on stage. We're restaging this work and we're going to celebrate the life and legacy of an extraordinary man. So with all of these companies, our students in the North Nova Center for Dance study with them. They receive master classes. Through the Hellas Foundation, they pay $5 for a ticket to go see these productions, they and their families. So hundreds of these students and their families are at each of these productions in the theater at just $5 a ticket. So this is the way in which Millette and her team of local artists work so extraordinarily hard. It's all about the family unit, and it's about the life and legacy of each of our kids and each of our family members.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Council.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for fostering talent and local talent through these classes. I see that you're enrolling for tuition-free spring dance classes in January. So people need to keep that on their radar, and we certainly will post it on our social media. I see the senior dance fitness program, Parkinson's dance, and a master class, which I'm actually interested in. So you might see me out there in a leotard. But I just want to thank you so much for all the work you do in the community. The free classes that are available for our children, our seniors, people who need them, and adults, because adults can also use movement and stress relief in their lives as our lives are so hectic. Council members? Councilmember Thomas?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Nova, and Greg, you know, my kids and both sets have participated in, especially the Nutcracker. If you haven't seen the Nutcracker, especially with the youth put it on, it's a quite an amazing opportunity. Greg is a cultural ambassador. I think very few people can match you. And for the ladies from Nova, thank you guys so much. I know what happens at Joe Brown adds value to our community. Thank you guys very much. I'm looking forward to supporting everything you guys do. And then my younger kids also participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
I'd like to also thank Nova for your commitment and your motivation. Certainly I've had an opportunity to attend and participate in performances, but your fundraiser each year is so exciting. It's exciting to see all of the partners that you have involved with it. And yes, I am very pleased and thank you for choosing to be at the Desire Florida Center, a new recreation center, which I'm glad to and always pleased to promote to get more people there. Because isn't it a nice center? I mean, it's a great center and we don't have enough people who know about it. But we're doing some rebuilding in the area to get more people into the area to use it. But what a resource is Nova in our city of New Orleans. And I am upbeat about many things that are in the city of New Orleans. And I say that a lot. I recognize that we have concerns, but I also recognize that we have opportunities. What about all of these free classes that are being offered to our youth and our seniors and those who are interested in participating? We don't talk about that enough. But I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more through my newsletter. I've already taken pictures of the invitation that's gonna be in the newsletter. We're gonna be sharing that information. But I just want to thank you all for your commitment, for NOVA's real use of motivation to get people to make contributions, and also the fact that you're willing to go into every community of our city to offer your services. It's greatly appreciated, and I look forward to the next performance. I'll see you over the holiday season, but in any way that I can, I'll certainly continue to talk up and encourage people to support NOVA's. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be brief, Greg. You've been doing this long. I think you worked with my mom.
Yes, your mom was my boss.
Yeah, so, I mean, so you've gone through two generations of morals at this
Yes.
point with NOVA. Definitely, I'm sure you guys are aware of the New Orleans Cultural Recreation Fund.
Yes,
I certainly hope you'll be applying as well, because
We will.
obviously we want to be a partner.
thank you, Councilman. And this wasn't here for an ask.
No, but we always look for an opportunity to promote the fund. So really, it's a symbiotic relationship. You didn't come here for an ask, but I'm pushing an ask on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But thank you for all the work you guys do. You're tremendous across the city, and you're a tremendous resource, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nova, for all that you do. I could tell, I know firsthand that you all are in every community. I know you're in the cutoff on Mondays. I bring my daughters there on Mondays. My wife does. You go switch kids on the cutoff on Mondays. I know you're at Stalling on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are at Stalling St. Claude at 5 o'clock, which I'll be after I leave this meeting, bringing my daughter to your dance class. I know that you're at the Lions Center on Saturday, because we're there on Saturday. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday,
Well, they
and
keep you
Saturday.
busy.
That's just two of them. But Nova doing a great thing, and my daughter is very excited to be participating in the Nutcracker. So I'll be watching Nutcracker 2 times in one day. And I'm sure she's going to be the best candle holder that this world has ever seen. She practices holding that candle all the time, so she's going to do a great job, I'm sure of it. Just thank you. I want to thank you for all that you do. This stuff is free or very inexpensive, and it's true in every part of the city, from Algiers, Mid City, Central City, Uptown, the East. It is all over. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, we have a proclamation, so we'll bring it down and take some photos and get you all out of here. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Councilman.
Greg, they're gonna name a stage after you or something. To do this too long. Continue. I told my mom you said hi. Okay, let me know.
No.
Okay, let me know.
Councilmember Jerusalem wants to.
See you, Gregory. Good to see you.
I'm worried about, well, right now we're doing no Jones.
Council members, we're now going to page 34. We have motion line over M 464 by Councilmember Jeruso by request. Ratify, confirming and approving the mayor's appointment of Wilma Jacobs Vice Brew Hofer Jr. as a member of the Audubon Commission effective upon approval by the Council of the City of New Orleans for a term that will expire on June 30th, 2028. Council members, we need to suspend Rule 15.
I've moved, seconded by Councilmember Morrell.
I don't want them to think about it. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, let me know. So
All right, you want me to ask a question? You want to ask a question? All right,
Okay.
okay. Mr. Jacobs?
Good morning.
Good morning. Council President usually asks one question.
Sure.
Why do you want to serve?
Okay. Well, I guess I really don't need another board to be on, but, however,
That's an honest answer.
I think, serving on a city commission, it really gives me an opportunity to support the city in a way other than just living and breathing air. It's a great opportunity. And I look back on my fine memories as a kid, enjoying the zoo and enjoying the parks. And I understand that these world-class facilities continue to be available to all our citizens and our children. So I think it's important that we continue to have these for the benefit of our citizens. And it's also important understanding that you as a council have a lot to do, and that myself as a part of a commission can do the work for you in governing the assets and the responsibilities of the Audubon Commission.
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve. We appreciate
Can I
it.
make one quick comment?
Absolutely, please.
Wilmer, I really appreciate you being here today.
Sure.
My wife served on the Audubon Commission, I think for 6 years.
Yes.
And I can tell you that I look to people like you to remind people on the commission that the commission is dealing with millage dollars that taxpayers of New Orleans pay, and to really continue to push the envelope at the Audubon facilities, that you really have to demonstrate to the people that are paying these millages that they're accessible to everyone. I know there's been some efforts over the years to try and have free days for citizens and the like, but in particular, I know one thing my wife was very passionate about was school trips, and how maybe some of the rates the school board pays to charge those schools to come to the zoo for field trips needs to be revisited. And you're ideally the kind of person to go and say, if we're gonna make the case every 10, 15 years to taxpayers in New Orleans that they should be part of funding the zoo, we need to really point to wins for the average citizen to say this is why they should do it. So I know you're a great guy. I know you're the person to continue that legacy of going, as my good friend Troy Eber used to say, fight for the little guy. I need you to be up there saying, maybe we should make sure that we are doing as much outreach to schools as possible. We're creating a very low, if no barrier to entry to get those kids there, because if those parents, if those taxpayers aren't seeing some kind of return for that investment, it can't just be the city gets a zoo. It's gotta be, it impacts the city in a positive way.
Sure, I certainly understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs, for your time this morning. I've moved for approval, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Members, please vote your machines. I'm not gonna say any names, but it rhymes with JP Morrell. Thank you. 7 yeas, no nays.
Could we ask Mr. Jacobs a little bit about his high school background?
Oh, God.
But they know where we're going with that. Congratulations.
Council members, we need to turn to page 38. We have motion M23-523 by council members Harris and Jeruso by request, adding the president of the council as a signatory to the professional service agreement between the city of New Orleans and IV Waste LLC, and authorizing the president of the council to sign the agreement between the city of New Orleans and IV Waste LLC. Council members, we need to suspend Rule 57.
Yes. Right. With my lovely, yeah.
All right,
So one person is not voting.
No, he's here. He voted. All right, 7-0.
All right, now you can go ahead.
all right, thank you, Madam Clerk. This is simply a pro forma ministerial motion that the council needs to pass in order to initiate the contract with Ivy Waste, He won the contract for Service Area 1 after going through the city's rigorous RFP process. The new contracts provide for increased equipment quantities and new equipment types, equipment technology, including GPS, cameras, route management, higher wages for workers, benefits, worker safety programs, and a free second trash cart. And this has actually resulted in enhanced services for residents in Area 2, where Ivy Waste currently has a contract, and in Service Area 3, where Waste Pro has a contract. Both of those new contracts resulted in an immediate return on investment with significant reduction in missed collections, with an absence of truck leakage throughout neighborhoods since the inception of those new contracts in Service Area 2 and 3 in November 22. Residents of Area 1 and Area 4 deserve the same new equipment and enhanced service level that come with the additional costs associated with these new contracts. Residents in our areas deserve parity and equitable service levels for the same monthly sanitation fees. I believe we have Matt Torrey in the audience and Gilbert Montano, if any of the council members have any questions about the RFP process. And so Matt Torrey's here to field any questions that y'all might have. Any questions? Okay. All right, so I have some comment cards before we get to it. First is Burnell Cotton, followed by Sam Bailey, followed by Sydney Torres. Mr. Cotton.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Burnell Cotlin. I have the first and only grocery store in the Lower Ninth Ward since Hurricane Katrina. I'm just here to speak on Mr. Torres. I've been knowing of him for years, but I had the opportunity to meet him recently. And I can say this much, he's a man of his word, just like Oliver Thomas is. And what I mean by that, Sydney Torres came to my store one late night and he noticed I didn't have any lights outside my building. So because of that, I had to close down my grocery store early. We hung out for a little bit and he walked out. He said, Burnell, would you mind if I turn the lights on? And so about 2 weeks later, make a long story short, I'm able to stay open a little bit later because he said he was going to do something and he did it. So the customers now can come in a little bit later to do their grocery shopping. It's hard in this time and age to find people that men or women of their word, a person of their word. I can speak on his behalf and say he is. He said he was going to do something and he did it. And I want to tell you, thank you for being who you are also. It just means a lot. So this is above my pay grade. I didn't know what this was about. It's at the last minute. He asked me to speak on his behalf, and I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. And just want to tell him thank you, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Sam Bailey and then Sydney Torres.
Morning. So my name is Sam Bailey. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Torres. I'm his DBE recycling contractor. I've been a contractor in the city for over 20 years. Some of you may have noticed some of the big projects I've done, tearing down the Magnolia project in Councilman Harris' office, in your district, Walnut Square Apartments. I cleared the way for the Greenway with all those apartments behind Rouse's back there for Mr. Torres. I've been working with him not just on these projects here, the recycling project, but I've worked with him for at least 10 years prior to this recycling contract on different projects he's had around the city. So like I said, I'm here on his behalf and support what he's doing. And I've been given an opportunity to run the recycling. All my people work for me. They live in the city. I live in the city. I live in Councilman Thomas district. That's all I really have to say there.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Torres.
Good morning, council. Thank you for allowing me to come up and speak. I just want to tell everyone here that I appreciate that I had the opportunity to bid on this this bid over a year ago. It was decided to go out to bid, and we have been working on this for months and months and months. We've received an award letter. We have an approved contract that we signed. We're just waiting for you guys to approve it. And so I'm hoping that happens today because I've invested money in equipment, I bought trucks, I bought a building, and I've hired talent that can handle 60-something thousand homes, 64,000 plus homes. I already pick up a large part of the city in Lakeview, Gentilly, and part of the Marion and Bywater area. And we do and I say this, my team does an incredible job at what they do. And because of them and because of people like Sam and my other DB was trying to make it, he was at Home Depot, he handles all the hoppers, MDL, Michael Lee. We do a great job and we stand by our product. And if you look at 311, which is really easy for any of y'all to do, we have our missed pickups around maybe 3 to 4 a week, compared to some of the other ones that are 400 to 500 a month. So, you know, we do a great job, our team does a great job, and we will do a great job here with all new equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Councilmember Green.
First, Mr. Bailey, thank you for your investment. There was a bit of misinformation that was put out last time, and I just want to state on the record that Mr. Bailey is the owner of Waste Pro. And I appreciate the fact that you have done the work for so many years. How many years have you been in business? Over 20 years. Thank you for the work that you've done. As we move forward, I would like to say this. I mean, Mr. Torres is a contractor of the city of New Orleans, and he is in his business to do business. But I do want to say this. I want to thank you and your team for the work that you're doing in my district, Council District D. People call the council office first. They don't, even if you tell them call customer service, they call the council office first. And we just don't get calls about missed pickups. We don't get calls about garbage left in the street and the like. And I know that your management team and your subcontractors are, you know, letting people who work for you know that it's an important delivery to deliver the service that is necessary. I remember too many instances where in the past, and it goes even maybe beyond the previous contractor to you, where trash was left in the streets, where people complained about juice from the garbage left in the street and the like. The bottom line is that in the service area that I represent in District D, the work is being provided, and we appreciate it. No one complains that what they put out doesn't get picked up, because it does get picked up eventually. And that at the end of the day, no matter how many times a week it is, at the end of the day, it could be 10 or it could be 1. The bottom line is that everything that's being put out is being picked up. And if there's a call that needs to be made to say to the contractor that something still needs to be done, the contractor is getting back to it. I appreciate that service.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. I would ask that, especially given the light of the information that came from the Public Works Committee, as well as the Budget Committee. I know the CEO is not here, but in light of the fact that it's alleged that almost $20 million in savings could be found, that the CEO said he was going to coordinate a meeting to take a look at that to see if that was actually true and if it was possible. So I would ask that if we would delay this to see if that 19.5 or $20 million is real. And I'm not a lawyer, but I know a ward letter talks about intent, but it creates no contractual relationship until that contractual relationship is signed and actually gone through the process. So that's just my understanding of it. So I would ask that if nothing else, we would wait until the meeting that the CAO committed to convene to substantiate whether, especially for this council is so frugal and fiscally responsible, that is the potential 20 million in savings real or is it not? And then maybe we could take action after that. So that's all I would ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Matt Tory, since you're here, can you talk about what a delay in approving the contracts today would do to the timeline for getting carts?
Councilman, before you get back, I can make one quick point.
Sure, of course.
Just to be clear, there were 3 contracts bid simultaneously that I called Mr. Tory. There were service area 1, 4, and 5, correct?
Just 1 and 4.
Just 1 and 4. So Algiers was not bid at the same time.
Algiers is 4.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
thank you for the clarification. So my point being this, as far as doing the timeline, if there's a bid challenge to the process, that would mean both contracts need to be relooked at. Is that correct? That is my understanding, having spoken to Mr. Montano, to the administration, because you can't say that a person who won one bid can have that bid, then contest the process on the bid he didn't win. And that could create significant legal hurdles for the city of New Orleans if we cherry pick when two contracts went out with similar processes, that on the one where someone won, that one's okay, but on the one where they lost, they want to challenge that one. And I want to just bring that up because as you're talking about the timeline, we just, on the consent agenda, have the Algiers contract. And if we're going to delay doing one, I think it would be prudent as a council to avoid legal challenges to hold off on both until we understand what's going on with these contracts, if that's the council's will.
Well, I certainly am not a member of the law department, but your points are valid, and I would think that reasonably any delays to this process or changing the intent of the award letters from the city would certainly have the potential to bring about litigation. So I'll leave it at that. But to the earlier point, the city embarked on this process over a year ago to really bring enhanced services to all neighborhoods across the city and a uniform service level. We were approached by our current contractor, Richards Disposal, on multiple occasions, both before we issued these RFPs in June of this year, while the RFPs or after the RFPs were awarded, about extending their contract. And I can tell you that respectfully, the administration declined that offer at each juncture, fully aware of whatever potential cost savings were being offered by Richards Disposal. I think everybody is aware of the issues that the city and our contractors encountered as a result of the low bid contracts that we've been working off of for the past years. We've been in front of this council many times addressing those issues. Our contractors have been in front of you expressing their shortcomings, perceived shortcomings with those contracts. And these new RFPs were a way to have an open and transparent process to bring an enhanced service level to all neighborhoods in a uniform fashion and give every contractor the ability to bid on that. So from that perspective, I can tell you from the Department of Sanitation, we are very excited about moving forward with Ivy Waste in Area 1 and Richards Disposal in Area 4 with these new contracts. We've already begun our transition meetings, which are integral because there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into transitioning contracts of this size, both from an equipment, facilities, people, routes, and whatnot. And I can tell you definitively that if there is a delay to today's vote, there is a likelihood that we will have a delay to our April 1st transition date of months. It could be 6 to 8 months. It could be a year. We could have vendors decide that they no longer want to do business with the city, given the fact that they've already been given an award letter and we renege on that award letter or show that we are not going to follow through with the transparent process that we undertook from the RFP. So I can tell you from the Department of Sanitation's perspective, we sincerely request that this council vote on this contract today. We are excited about moving forward, continuing to bring enhanced service levels to the residents in New Orleans. And I think the residents of New Orleans, most of all, are excited about that and are ready to receive those enhanced service levels.
Thank you, Mr. Torrey. Any other questions for Mr. Torrey while he's up here? Any other questions from the council members? Any online comments? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move to adopt the motion. Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. All in favor? 5 yeas, 6 yeas, 1 nay. Thank you.
The last one, that should be number 7. This should be 7. You sure? Yeah. I don't have. Council members, we're going to page 39. We have motion M 23-525 by council members Moreno, Morel, Jeruso, Harris, King, Green, and Thomas, directing the City Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing to consider amending and reordaining the comprehensive zoning ordinance MCS 4264 as amended by ordinance number 26,413 MCS and subsequent amendments to address regulatory and administrative barriers experienced by early child care education providers to streamline the zoning approval process and expedite the expansion of ECE facilities in New Orleans, and to make recommendations for any other amendments deemed necessary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, this is a land use motion dealing with being able to develop more childcare facilities in our city. And the reason why this is necessary is that, as you all know, after we passed the early childhood education millage, we are now in need of additional facilities. The problem, though, is that the overall land use measures that have to be followed to build these facilities take months and months and months. So what we're doing here is we are moving forward this motion that'll send it over to CPC for recommendations as to how we can shorten the process and overall be able to build these facilities much faster. I appreciate every single council member co-authoring this with me. I do have public comment. That's from Mr. Burnside. Come on up.
Michael Eric Burnside, 2215 Felicity. My comment is based mildly on confusion. When you say the word build, I don't have anything against building new early child care facilities that help children and parents and employers and everything else. What I'm up here to talk about is conversion of existing affordable housing into early child care daycare centers, particularly the small ones. I've been in these chambers for a little while now, and there's a continual small background drumbeat of converting an RD2, an HURD2 zoned lot that has a double shotgun on it into an early child care center. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's not that Paul doesn't need no money. It's that the money doesn't necessarily have to come from Peter. So if they're building new buildings, I've got nothing to say except God bless and good luck. But if they're converting existing affordable housing into non-housing, then I've got a problem, because somewhere, somebody's got to be building affordable housing, if nothing else, to make up for what we're converting our housing into. Because it's not just early childcare. Law offices, everybody and their uncles using affordable housing for something other than living in. And it adds up.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. Any online comments? Go ahead, Anita.
Yeah, we have one. This is from Hamilton Simons Jones with the New Orleans Campaign for Grade Level Reading. I want to thank the council members for your focus on helping address barriers preventing small child care centers from meeting the need for early care and education in our communities. These zoning changes make sense and help small business owners and small nonprofits that are primarily run by Black women who too often don't have the capital to spend months waiting for conditional approvals and navigating other challenges in the zoning and construction process. This resolution represents an important step in addressing yet another challenge that makes the amazing work done by early childhood professionals harder than it needs to be. Thank you.
Thanks. Nick Kindle with Agenda for Children. Come on up.
Yes, thank you very much, and apologies for getting in the card late. So hello, my name is Nick Kindle. I'm the Director of Facility Expansion with Agenda for Children. So thank you all very much for your support on this. This is the start of, you know, a longer process where we will kind of figure out all the details, but, you know, the goal is really to expand opportunities for early childhood education centers. So thank you all for your support, and I'm here if you all have any questions.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Nick. All right, it's been moved by me, seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Members, vote your machines, please. 7 yeas, no nays. Wisner's next.
Council members, we have motion M 23-529 by Councilmember Moreno. Under this authority granted to the council in section 4-4013 of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans, that the law department headed by the city attorney is directed to intervene as a plaintiff in the council of the City of New Orleans versus Edward Wisner Donation et al. Case number 2022-6765. Civil District Court for the Parish of Orleans, sections L-6, Judge Kern A. Reese, on behalf of the City of New Orleans and in concert with the City Council. Council members, we need to suspend the rules to receive this.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I've moved. It's been seconded by President Morrell. Got 6 yeas, no nays, and the rules are suspended.
Now we need to further suspend the rules to add it.
Okay. I've moved. Seconded by President Morrell. Seven yeas, no nays, and now it's added to the agenda.
And now you could discuss.
All right, thank you. Members, I'm going to actually read the notes that have been prepared by our executive counsel and our attorneys so that I make sure I get all of this right. What this particular Wisner motion does is we know the Wisner heirs have objected to the council's capacity to bring suit. After previously rejecting the argument, a panel of the Fourth Circuit agreed with the heirs. The issue is now before the Louisiana Supreme Court of whether or not the council itself can sue at all. The mayor has not objected to the council's capacity to sue. We have already won preliminary rulings that suggest our underlying legal position that the trust is dissolved and that the new agreement is null and that the corpse of the trust should be returned to the city and that argument is sound. This issue before the Supreme Court attacks a fundamental principle, whether the council can enforce city laws and have accountability via a lawsuit. The city has not opposed the council's capacity to sue and has begun to collaborate with the council on legal positioning. The city is not defending her position. This motion would simply use our charter authority to formally and legally order the city attorney to place the city on our side of the lawsuit, thereby protecting the whole suit in case the Supreme Court says that the council alone cannot proceed with a lawsuit. We hope the Louisiana Supreme Court rules in our favor and that this is just moot. But to protect the public, win back the public's money, and the fight to right this wrong of the Wisner agreement, we think it is best to file this motion and increase our legal leverage. The city attorney's office has been advised of our position. That is what this does. And happy to take any questions. Seeing none, it's been moved by President Morrell. I have seconded. Seven yeas, no nays. Thank you.
Council members, we're now going to go to page 35. We have resolution R 23-510 by council members Jeruso and Thomas by request. A resolution approving the 9th supplemental sewer service revenue bond resolution in connection with the issuance of the not exceeding $35 million sewer service revenue bonds of the city of New Orleans, Louisiana, approving the terms, security, and manner of execution of said bonds and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing.
Thank you. This is just a continuation resolution. Mr. Akers, is there anything you want to add to this? Because I think you've been here on it already and we appreciate and I see Ozan and a representative from Sewage and Water Board in the audience. It looks like Councilmember Morrell moved. I will second. Thank Councilmember Thomas for joining this by request. for more revenue for sewage and water board. Seven yeas, no nays. Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, council members, we have motion M 23-511 by Councilmember Thomas by request, adding the president of the council as a signatory to the loan agreement between the Office of Community Development, SBP L9 2 LLC, and authorizing the president of the council to sign the loan agreement between the Office of Community Development and SBP L9 2 LLC. Council members, we need to suspend Rule 57. Now, council members, y'all can discuss it.
For adoption. Second by Councilmember, moved by Councilmember Morrell, second by Councilmember Giroux. So vote your machine. Madam Clerk, it's been moved in second. Aye. Aye.
Council members, we're now going to go to page 4, the consent agenda. We have a communication from Aaron Spears, Chief of Staff and Council Utilities Regulatory Office. This should be marked received. We have a communication from Errol Jerome, General Contractor, Interface Construction Services, LLC, 8829 through 31 Palm Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date, November 16th. On top of page 5, we have a communication from Zachary Smith, owner, Zach Smith Consulting and Design, 7510 Hurst Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date, November 16th. We have a communication from Kung Vu, accountant, New Orleans Police Department, City of New Orleans. This should be marked received and referred to the Community Development Committee. We have a communication from Daniel E. Davalier Law Group LLC, 625 Dauphine Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date, November 16th. On top of page 6, we have a communication on Darren P. Lombard, Clerk of Criminal District Court and Chief Election Officer. This should be marked received. We have a communication from Tyra Johnson Brown, Director, Housing Policy and Office of Community Development, City of New Orleans. This should be marked received and referred to the Government Affairs Committee. We have a communication from Tyra Johnson Brown, Director, Housing Policy and Office of Community Development, City of New Orleans. This should be marked received and referred to the Community Development Committee. On top of page 7, we have a communication from Tyra Johnson Brown, Housing Policy and Office of Community Development, City of New Orleans. This should be marked received and referred to the Community Development Committee. We have the report of the Deputy Director of the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission, Central Business District, Historic District Landmarks Commission, 300 through 02 Pelican Avenue. On top of page 8, we have a report of the Deputy Director of the New Orleans Historic District Landmark Commission, Central Business District, Historic District Landmarks Commission, 8500 Spruce Street. This should be marked received. We have a report of the Deputy Director of the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission, Central Business District, Historic District Landmarks Commission, 332 South Diamond Street. This should be marked received. We have a report of the Deputy Director of the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission, Central Business District, Historic District Landmarks Commission, 1040 through 62 Magazine Street. This should be marked received. We're on top of page 9. We have the report of the Executive Director of the City Planning Commission. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date, November 16th. We have ordinance calendar number 34,420 by council members Morrell and Harris. Zoning docket 6223. We have on top of page 10, we have ordinance calendar number 34,421 by Councilmember Harris. Zoning docket 6323. Ordinance calendar number 34,422 by Councilmember Harris. Zoning docket 6423. On top of page 11, we have ordinance calendar number 34,423 by Councilmember King. Zoning docket 6623. Ordinance calendar number 34,424 by Councilmember Cream. Zoning docket 6723. On top of page 12, motion line over M23-495 by Councilmember Thomas by request. The Criminal Justice Committee recommended approval. Motion line over M23-496 by Councilmember King by request. Public Works Committee recommended approval. Motion M23-506 by Council Members Moreno, Morrell, Harris, Green, and Thomas. The Climate Change and Sustainability Committee recommended approval. On top of page 13, we have resolution R23-507 by Council Members Moreno, Morrell, Harris, Green, and Thomas. The Climate Change and Sustainability Committee recommended approval. Motion M23-508 by Council Member Harris by request. The Quality of Life Committee recommended approval. On top of page 14, motion M23-509 by Councilmember Harris by request. Quality of Life Committee recommended approval. Those are all the matters on the consent agenda.
I've moved. Can we get a second on the consent agenda? Are there any public comment? You have a public comment on consent? Come on, Mr. Burnside.
Michael A. Burnside, 2215 Felicity. Just wanted to take a moment to bring before the council's attention the ongoing attention-getting moment that I've been using as a reply guy now for several meetings. Like this is our fourth meeting, I believe, pushing towards our fifth, where the utility pole in the corner of Felicity and Magnolia is still doubled. There was nobody taking any traffic lights off the old one and sticking them on the new one, much less the power for the traffic lights, much less the AT&T cables. So the one old pole is literally rotten at the base. You can go take pictures of it if you want. And it's held at the top by rope. It's a good thing we didn't have any hurricanes this season. That's all I can say. Lift a little snide comment in my mouth. But on a serious note, it would be nice if the city had the ability to go move a traffic light. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burnside. I'll move on consent. Can we get a second? Seconded by Councilmember King. Seven yeas, no nays.
Council members, we have a communication from Gilbert A. Montano, Chief Administrative Officer, City of New Orleans, submitting written notice of the appointment of Clinton R. Hathaway as Director of Public Works pursuant to Section 4-1064 of the Home Rule Charter, City Code Section 2-477, and City Council Rule 56. Council members, we need to suspend the rules to receive this communication.
Six yeas, no nays, the rules suspended, sorry.
Councilmember, who didn't vote?
Councilman Thomas,
Okay,
he's a yay,
okay.
no problem.
Now we need to suspend the rules to add this to our agenda.
I've moved, I guess. Thank you, Councilman Russo, please wait your machine. Seven yeas, no nays, rules suspended. Attached to the agenda.
Okay, so
Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, this is the notice we receive when the administration has begun the process of making an appointment for a new department head. This individual has been named as the interim department head. And in that same communication, the CAO makes a request of a timeline for that person to go through the confirmation process. They are requesting a date at the end of December with final confirmation on January 5th. That is respecting the council's current agenda, that is the dates that are currently on the calendar. That is in flux. We might move that date up, we might move it back. The main consideration is that there's a 90-day period to appoint an interim, which ends in mid-January. So a confirmation hearing must be heard before that date. So we are in receipt of those dates. We will communicate with the administration and figure out what that process will be. We will provide ample time to the public regarding when that confirmation hearing will be, so that the public can be aware and attend. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a legislative grouping, the HDLC appeal of Chantel Hebert McGee, requested to appeal the Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision of denial of the application for the installation of the proposed doors at the corner entry of the building for property located at 302 Pelican Avenue. We have motion M23-527 by Councilmember King, overruling HDLC's decision and granting the applicant's request for property located at 300 through 302 Pelican Avenue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. HDLC at the floor.
Thank you. 300-02 Pelican Avenue is a contributing rated structure located in the Algiers Point Full Control Local Historic District. The current corner entry doors are simple pane over panel doors with limited ornamentation surmounted by a 3-light fixed transom. The doors at the building's first story range from low to high style, with the pane over panel French doors and a decorative Queen Anne door at the Pelican Avenue fronting entrance. The proposed corner entry French doors deviate in their overall style as well as proportion. Proportionally, the proposed doors appear to be more vertically oriented with narrower paneling and openings. Stylistically, the proposed door do not exhibit the Queen Anne motifs and appear to have been imported from France. Although the building's detailing lends itself to higher style windows and doors, the scrolled trim and detailing of the proposed doors are not compatible with the stylization of the building. We're concerned that the doors may not fit within the existing opening. Overall, the building retains enough of its Queen Anne detailing that replacement doors should match in style. Staff recommended denial of the proposed corner entry doors. At their meeting in October, the commission voted to deny the proposal and encourage the owner to install doors that are appropriate in style and detail for the building, similar to the ones that exist currently.
Thank you, HDLC, and that's the proposed doors. Anyone who wants to see those. These doors do not require any structural change to the existing foundation or frame for installation. The applicant maintains that the French colonial doors are in keeping with this Queen Anne style home based on information from variable experts and websites. Two neighbors, one of which is an architect, have commented on the record at HDLC's October 4th meeting in support of these doors. To date, more than $50,000 has been invested in restoring the exterior of this neglected home, and I believe these doors will continue to support these restoration efforts. With this, I move to grant this appeal. It has been properly seconded by Councilmember Green. 6 yeas. Who are we missing?
That's it.
6 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
On top of page 16, we have a legislative grouping. The HDLC appeal of John Garner, attorney Hale Duvall, requesting to appeal the Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision of denial of the application to remove existing street-facing wood windows for replacement with new clad wood windows at a contributing rating 3-story residential building for property located at 332 South Diamond Street. We have motion M 23-519 by Councilmember Harris, overruling the HDLC's decision and granting the applicant's request for property located at 332 South Diamond Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Eleanor, can you brief us on the HGLC's report?
Yes, 332 South Diamond Street is located in the Warehouse District, Full Control Local Historic District. The applicant has noted the existing wood windows and surrounding wood trim at the front elevation are continuing to deteriorate and are requesting to replace them with new aluminum-clad wood windows to replicate the appearance of the original and to provide improved thermal and acoustic isolation at the interior. The proposed replacement window is a high-quality Pella Lifestyle double-hung aluminum-clad window with a 6/6 simulated divided light munting grid. However, the HDLC guidelines require that existing wood windows at street-facing locations must remain wood, and the proposed windows include an exterior aluminum metal cladding that cannot be approved at the staff level. The proposed windows otherwise meet the HDLC requirement that they match the original in size, shape, configuration, type, operation, materials, Clinton pattern, dimensions, profiles, detailing, and they can be installed in a recess mounted to match the current windows. Additionally, the windows are slightly less visually accessible because they are located at the second and third floor rather than at the sidewalk level. And the surrounding wood trim will be repaired and replaced with wood to match the existing. Based on all of those factors, staff had no objection to the request for the replacement of the proposed aluminum-clad wood windows. At their meeting of October 3rd, 2023, a motion to approve the application failed to pass 3-4, resulting in no action being taken on this item.
Thank you, Eleanor. Basically, the staff has agreed with the applicant. But I do have public comment. Adam Morgan, followed by Hannah Heltz. Do y'all wish to speak? Okay, so Adam. And just keep in mind, y'all have 2 minutes.
Sure. So Adam Morgan with Pella Windows. Thank you for letting us be here today. We're here in support of the customer wanting to replace the windows. We have one of the best warranties, one of the best brands in windows and doors, and we're confident even in historic areas with the aluminum cladding helps the windows over time, and it allows us to do things like lifetime warranties to protect the wood. So it gives you the same look, similar look, but with a better quality product.
Great, thank you. Hannah.
I'm here to speak to the historic details of the windows. So we can offer an aluminum cladding that on our windows that gives a putty profile, which is kind of like the old style of windows, the way they were made, and emulates the true divided lights on a performance of a modern window. We have the putty profiles. We also have the butt joinery and in our cladding, and the windows are made in a through style construction to emulate historic windows. We also offer authentic hardware like the spoon locks, and all of that can be done with the aluminum cladding on the exterior and the wood on the interior.
Great, thank you. So basically they look like wood.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Garner?
Yes, Council Member Harris, thank you very much. My name's John Garner. I'm the resident owner. Basically, I'm also an attorney, so the brief was rather large. What I've handed out is a short version. Essentially, this started after Ida, after the settlement of a hurricane damage claim. And I finally got insurance money, basically, to repair the windows. And if you look at the windows, there are 8 on the front. If you also look, the top windows are 6/6. 2 of the windows on the second level are 4/4s. Those windows were in place when I purchased the building about 25 years ago. And essentially, they made it through Katrina. That's where we stayed for Katrina. That's where we stayed for Ida. I got the insurance money. Started out with a vinyl window recommendation at a cost of about $14,000. I went back to HDLC. I worked with the staff, Dennis Murphy and Pella, including the representatives. And what we came up with was aluminum clad. And then part of the handout It's defined as aluminum clad windows are wood windows or doors with a protective exterior layer of aluminum wrapped around the sash and frame. The cladding is durable and requires very little maintenance other than occasional cleaning. The exterior resists the elements of Mother Nature, while the interior is beautiful wood that can be stored or painted to match the decor of the home. The others. So I've been working with HDLC. I was surprised by the commission's stance on this. Essentially, my understanding is there was an issue with the aluminum clad, and there was also an issue raised over a warranty by one of the architects. These are lifetime warranty windows. I'll never have to replace them again, except if something happens in a hurricane or they get blown out. And I spent a considerable amount of my time coming up with an economically feasible result that was approved by the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. From one attorney to another, you're winning your case. You could have just sat down.
No, I thank you, but
Thank you. Brian Berger, do you wish to speak? He's gone. Aaron Schneider, you wish to speak? You're happy with the solution? Okay, great. I'm gonna move to adopt the overruling of the HDLC. I need one more vote. All right, thank you. You win. Good luck with your windows.
Thank you all very much.
At the bottom of the page, the HDLC appeal of 8500 Spruce Street has been deferred to November 16th. On top of page 17, a legislative grouping, HDLC appeal of Tony L. Fortis, AIA, and car principal Max Barrier Architects, requesting to appeal the Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision of de facto denial of the application for demolition of an existing contributing rated two-story warehouse building to grade for property located at 1060 Magazine Street. We have motion M23-515 by Councilmember Harris, overruling and granting the applicant's request for the property located at 1060 Magazine Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Eleanor?
1040-62 Magazine Street is a contributing rated warehouse located in the Warehouse District Full Control Local Historic District. Modest warehouses such as this, although lacking in decorative detailing, are an important resource in maintaining this district's original character and history as an industrial area in which these types of commercial buildings were common. Staff would also like to note that there is general concern that the continued demolition of warehouse buildings within the warehouse district will inevitably undermine and negatively impact the visual perception of the area's public understanding of the unique social, cultural, economic, and architectural history of the district. While staff was hesitant to recommend approval for demolition, in this particular case, the existing building lacks substantial historic integrity. Much of the original building fabric on the exterior has been removed or replaced, particularly the original front facade, of which staff has found no photographic record. Given the building's overall condition and lack of remaining original materials, staff had no objection to the request for demolition to grade and recommended the commission vote to ratify the ARC recommendation for conceptual approval of the proposed redevelopment. If demolition approval was granted, any historic building fabric remaining should be salvaged and donated so that it may be reused elsewhere. At their meeting of October 4th, 2023, motions to approve the application and deny the application failed to pass, resulting in no action being taken on the application. Concerns expressed by the commissioners included the continued demolition of contributing rated warehouse structures in the warehouse district.
Thank you, Eleanor. Mr. Alfortis, I heard the staff ask that materials be recycled from this building if it's demolished. Is that your intention?
Yes, ma'am, as much as possible.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and move to, any questions, comments? I'm gonna move to approve, second by Councilmember Jeruso. 5 yeas, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Eleanor, sorry.
At the bottom of the page, University area off-street parking for 8500 Spruce Street is being withdrawn. Top of page 18, a legislative grouping. University area off-street parking interim zoning district. Appeal of Lynette Gordon, Spectrum Design and Engineering LLC, requesting to appeal the parking requirements established by the University area off-street parking interim zoning district for property located at 2417 Eagle Street. We have motion M23-520 by Councilmember Jeruso, granted and approving the applicant's request for the property located at 2417 Eagle Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is an existing single-family home that has 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, proposing to add 2 more bedrooms and 1 more bathroom. The home has been vacant for some time and received many MPM violations, and this will be a good point to get it back into housing. So I've moved, seconded by Council President. 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, we have a legislative grouping, University area off-street parking interim zoning district appeal of Zachary Smith, owner Zach Smith, consultant and design, requesting to appeal the University area off-street parking interim zoning district for property located at 8337 Hickory Street. On top of page 19, we have motion M23-521 by Councilmember Jeruso, granting and approving the applicant's request for the property located at 8337 Hickory Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm just trying to see Mr. Burnside have a card, but I think it's on the next item. All right, so this site is currently just an empty lot. It faces another empty lot. Developers have proposed a new single-family home, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, large open living area, and kitchen, and 1 off-street parking space. So I move for approval. I don't know who the seconder is, but it looks like there's 5 votes on the board. Why don't we just say Harris seconded?
Okay,
There you go. Thank you.
and you just want to say 5?
5 yeas, yes, ma'am.
At the bottom of the page, we have legislative grouping, zoning docket 5623, city council motion M23-231. Zoning docket 5623, city council motion M23-231, requesting an amendment to the text of the comprehensive zoning ordinance to amend the permitted and conditional use tables in Article 14, Table 14-1, to disallow the following residential uses currently allowed in the SLM Lake Area Marina District: dwelling above the ground floor, dwelling townhouse, dwelling multifamily, group home, small, group home, large, permanent supportive housing. Properties are located in the area generally bounded by Lake Marina Avenue, Lake Shore Drive, Breakwater Drive, Lake Pontchartrain, and the 17th Street Canal. Municipal address: the proposed text change would affect the S-LM Lake Area Marina District, which is applied to the area above. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval. On top of page 20, we have motion M23-522 by Councilmember Jeruso, approving and granting the applicant's request on zoning docket 5623.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Kroll?
Thank you, council member. This is a text amendment to the regulations of the SLM Lake Area Marina District. It includes the area that surrounds West End Park and has historically been developed with a range of uses, including boathouses, restaurants and other businesses, and residential units. This proposal would limit the range of residential building types that are allowed within this district to basically just boathouses, In guiding the analysis, the planning commission always looks first to the master plan, which kind of sets the standard and the basis for the zoning that can implement the master plan. And in this case, the master plan designation that underlies the zoning district only allows for boathouses and single family residences. It does not allow for more intensive or larger types of residential development. Thus, the current zoning is actually more permissive in terms of residential development than the master plan allows, and that cannot continue to be the case. And so this would correct that error, and the planning commission supports it for that reason.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burnside, 2 online comments, and then I have some comments to bookend CPC's report. Thank you, Mr. Kroll.
Michael Eric Burnside, 2215 Felicity. It's hard to argue with a master plan that has force of law, but I'm here to argue with it anyway. Master plans can be changed, whether through map amendments or text amendments. They are legal documents and subject to amendment. And the idea that certain parts of the city are not available for affordable housing really pisses me off and makes me emotional if I let it happen. So the basic idea is this whole city has dwellings above the ground floor, and there's a lot of dwellings above the ground floor in the French Quarter, for instance, which are not used for dwellings and nobody lives in them. But at least physically they're there, and we can talk about whether a human being should live in the French Quarter or should not live in the French Quarter, because they can. So it would be awfully nice if the rest of the city chose to follow the example and build 2 or 3-story buildings, because we are surrounded by a multi-billion-dollar levy that costs a lot of money. So the land here is really not as cheap as we pretend it is. And we need to make room for poor people, because poor people do all the work in the damn city. And it'd be nice if they lived near where they worked, so they didn't have to pay a lot of money for car insurance, cars and maintenance and front end alignments and all the rest of it. And we as a state are spending a huge amount of money on our interstate system. We just spent $125 million on a flyover for our $1 billion new airport. So it's not like we don't have money, we just don't have it for poor people. And there's certain parts of the city where it's harder to live if you're a poor person, and there's easier parts of the city to live in if you're a poor person. But a lot of poor people don't even bother living in the city. They commute in from other parishes, which is really, insert cuss word, sucks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. All right, Ms. Curran, I know we have 2 online comments and we'll keep them to 2 minutes each.
First comment is from Charles Marsala. Says, dear Councilmember Giarrusso and all council members, this project is being marketed as development of the West End Park lot, old restaurant side of the West End area. The restaurants were over the water and in Jefferson Parish are outside the area in multiple images shown as West End Lakeshore Park or West End Park. While agenda items and motions have gone out of their way to leave out the word park, and 2023 HRNA contract clearly refers to the area as park. The MYHMC is the Municipal Yacht Harbor Management Corporation Board awarded the contract via Stone Pigment and claimed attorney-client privilege as to not show it to the public. The city attorney overruled the board. MYHMC Chair Tim McConnell's statement was that he did not want the HRNA contract subject to public scrutiny, having the public see that the contract called the project development of West End Park, which also contains a pelican pond and bird habitat, might have been part of the decision to keep documents out of public review. Over the last few months, I have disagreed with Councilmember Giarrusso's statements that this area is a commercial area. 2 high-rise condominiums are within 500 feet of the park with numerous mid-rise residential buildings. The park serves these people who have no yards. Residents replaced commercial decades ago in much the same way that New Orleans Warehouse District has converted to residential. 4 studies in the last 15 years show the area to be saturated with bars and restaurants. In surveys, New Orleans citizens responded on the need for a quiet place for mental health benefits. The park should remain that place. Justifying the development of the park because 30 years ago, people parked in the park to eat in a Jefferson Parish restaurant is wrong. Do people ever park in City Park to eat at Ralph's at the park or other places? That would not justify developing City Park. When the Parks for All millage was passed, this paragraph was on the website because.
All right, Ms. Curran, that's 2 minutes. Thank you. Next comment.
Thank you. This one is from Gerald Lanassa. He says the proposed changes do not go far enough to protect open public access to our lakefront and sunsets. Please do not surrender to the Jefferson Parish developers and their wall-to-wall concrete Severn Avenue overbuilt style. Our tree canopy, open public access to the lake, sunset vistas with permeable greenery should be our public land priority. We must not allow our public spaces to be restyled by wall-to-wall Jefferson Parish concrete and steel, but rather we should strive to maintain and enhance the natural beauty that makes our lakefront valuable to everyone. The proposed changes seem to prioritize Severn Avenue like development over public access, which is a short-sighted approach that will ultimately harm our city. The lakefront is a cherished public space that should be protected, preserved, and nurtured for future generations. The Jefferson Parish proposed plans threaten to limit real public access and destroy the natural beauty of the area. We must not allow this to happen. The live oaks and lakefront tree canopy are a vital part of our community's character that contributes to the overall health and well-being of our residents. Trees not only provide cooling, shade, and beauty, but they also help to reduce air pollution, provide habitat for wildlife, and contribute to our mental health and well-being. Real trees and cleansing living coastline greenery are also our first line of defense against storm surge and winds. The proposed changes often threaten to replace permeable green lands with impermeable surfaces, which will lead to increased toxic urban runoff, which is a serious concern that needs to be addressed. In conclusion, I urge you to reconsider the proposed overbuilding and to prioritize the real preservation and enhancement of our waterfront public spaces. We must not sacrifice our beauty for short-term builder-developer gains. Instead, we should strive to create a sustainable and living waterfront that values and protects the public's natural resources.
Thank you. I want to say a couple things here. First, Mr. President, I'd ask that we continue to take council notice of material misstatements that are made in the record. I'm looking at Councilmember Green, who abuts this district, where this area was commercial for nearly 100 years. And anybody suggesting it wasn't is just lying. And I'm going to use that word lying because you had multiple businesses that were there for a long period of time until Hurricane Katrina. Let me just say a little bit about the impetus for this. First of all, there was a proposed condo project high-end that residents actively opposed, and Representative Hilferty was a part of making sure it did not go forward. This area, although it has condos surrounding it, as Mr. Kroll noted, has only really had boathouses right in the center near the property. So it has not been housing itself. As a result of the concerns raised by people who oppose anything being there other than passivity and not using our natural resources for both business and recreational purposes, we decided to limit any additional housing there because it had never been housing on the site. I held an MPP myself back in July about this. I would say somewhere between 80 to 85% of the people who attended supported this change because they don't want this area to be something that it hasn't been historically. So with that, I move for approval. Councilmember Green, do you have anything you want to add just because you are right next to it, literally?
Well, I think that it's important to be consistent, and that's why I asked the gentleman earlier today about his business. To Mr. Marsala, there are concerns that I have because as a youth, I used to go to Fitzgerald's and I used to go to Brunig's and I used to go to other places, and the parking lot was used. Joe, am I right? For the access to the
Absolutely.
So I just want to be consistent in that regard. And because you asked me, I wasn't going to really say anything, and I know how the vote is going to go, but I think that we should be consistent with regards to the public. Those parking spaces in that area were used for support of businesses that no matter where the line is drawn, at the end of the day, it was for businesses. I think that there can be beauty attached to the area and the public having access to the area without us kind of distorting the facts relative to previous usage. Let's work within what we have now. There are a lot of people who always ask, why aren't we doing what we used to do in that area? And it's designed for that particular purpose. I think that we can achieve both goals if we work as a community together, but the community does need to have, or the public does need to have the right facts available to them. I'm pleased to second your motion.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Green. All right, members, please vote your machines. 5 yeas, no nays, carries unanimously. Thank you.
We have a legislative group in zoning docket 7023 and motion M 23-516. Both have been deferred to November 16th. On top of page 21, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 34,277 has been deferred to November 16th. The legislative grouping, ordinance calendar number 34,308, as well as the amendment to ordinance calendar number 34,308 have been deferred to November 16th. At the bottom of page 22, the legislative grouping, ordinance calendar number 34,385, as well as motion line over M 23-426, as well as motion line over M 23-427. Each one of them have been deferred to November 16th. On top of page 24, ordinance calendar number 34,393 has been deferred to November 16th. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 34,425 by Councilmember King by request. An ordinance to ratify the execution and delivery by the New Orleans Building Corporation, NOBC, of the Third Amendment to the Third Amendment and Restatement of Lease, which is attached here to as Exhibit A, the amendment, and which amends the Third Amendment and Restatement of Lease dated September 25th, 1989, as amended by the First Amendment to Restatement of Lease and Servitude dated September 29th, 1989, and the Amendment of Lease Agreement dated February 17th, 2000, collectively, the Mercer lease, pursuant to which Mercer Realty and Investment Company and a Louisiana corporation, Mercer, leases to NOBC certain premises located at the corner of Iberville and Dauphine Streets in the French Quarter of the New Orleans, as more particularly described in the Mercer lease, the lease premises, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Connie, do you want to speak?
I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. New Orleans Building Corporation leases a portion of land at Dauphine and Iberville. We then sublease that land from Mercier Realty Company. We then sublease that land to Deanie's. The proposed ordinance modifies the rent and the term of those agreements.
Thank you, Ms. Connick. Are there any questions from the dais? Any online comments? Hearing none, I make a motion to adopt. Properly seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. 5 yeas and no nays. The motion, 6 yeas. Motion's adopted. Thank you.
On top of page 25, we have ordinance calendar number 34,428 by Councilmember Harris by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the New Orleans Building Corporation, NOBC, for the administration of a parcel of land owned by the state of Louisiana located beneath US Highway 90 Pontchartrain Expressway, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In 2013, the city signed a joint use agreement with DOTD for the city's use of the parking lots under the US Highway 90 from Loyola to St. Charles. The city then entered into a CEA with NOBIC to manage and operate those lots in accordance with the said joint use agreement. The proposed ordinance is the continuation of a CEA between CNO and NOBIC that will remain coterminous with the joint use agreement. The word stop. Are there any online or public comments other than Mr. Burnside? I know he's concerned about the pond.
You make it sound like a sad thing. I should invite you catfishing. Okay, so I've got good news, and this is one of the few times I get to say good news in person, but taking my cue from Councilman Green, I want to say thank you to, I'm going to mispronounce her name because I've never said it out loud before, but the Executive Director for New Orleans Building Corporation, Ms. Connick. Okay, you can tell I'm not native. Ms. Connick, and I'd like to thank Councilperson Harris. It seems that a problem that has existed for plus or minus since 2019 is actually going to be solved through a lot of work with Sewage and Water Board and others. And I can't tell you how happy I am. I could tell you stories about when I physically moved here in 2015 and how I would go from the Bywater, where I lived at Ms. Pearl's for $10 a night on bicycle by foot to my new property at 2215 Felicity. and I would leave the Union Passenger train station and enter darkness, physical darkness, like with no city lights and a pond that was there at those days in the corner of CL10 and Simon Boulevard and fences and big story. And eventually that half got solved, but the half when we leave my beautiful central city that I do love is still besmirched by this algae-filled mosquito haven pond. So it's a blessing that it is being fixed. Small things help the residents of this city, and fixing this pond helps me a lot. And I want to say thank you to everybody involved.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside, and Matthew texted me that he is still working on that light that you mentioned. I'm gonna go ahead and move. Seconded by Councilmember Green, all in favor?
Aye. Aye, if it doesn't come up.
The ayes have it.
All right.
5. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,429 by Councilmember King by request. An ordinance to authorize the execution and delivery by the New Orleans Building Corporation, NOBC, and the City of New Orleans, the city of the Sixth Amendment to Agreement of Lease by and among NOBC as landlord, Rock Step Riverwalk LLC, a Delaware limited liability corporate company, as tenant and the city as intervenor, which amendment is attached here to as Exhibit A, and which amends the long-term lease pursuant to which NOBC leases the property generally known as Spanish Plaza, the Canal Street Wharf, Riparian, thank you, land, and the Lower Jewel Street Wharf Riparian land, as more particularly described in the lease, to Rock Step to operate a mall and related amenities, and otherwise other uses as more particularly described in the lease, and otherwise to provide as respect to.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I make a motion to adopt. Properly second by Councilmember Green. 5 yeas. No, it's not. I jumped the gun.
We need another one.
Councilmember Jeruso. He said 5 verbal yeas. Yeah.
On top of page 26, we have ordinance calendar number 34,432. Councilmember Jeruso, you want me to come back to these or? Council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to move funds from the office of the mayor to the Department of Human Services for NOLA East criminal justice work, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The fiscal note was received.
I've moved for approval, second by Councilmember Harris. Five yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 34,433 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,265 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate grant funds to the fire department for the purchase of a foam firefighting trailer to have the capabilities to provide protection to the Port of New Orleans and surrounding areas while transporting vast quantities of hazardous materials and chemicals daily, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I should have also just begun. Ordinarily, these would go to Budget Committee, but since we're in budget hearings, we're trying to facilitate and work with the administration on getting these done. That's a little bit of the reason why I'm taking that term. So I've moved for approval on calendar number 34,433, second by Councilmember Harris. Five yeas, no nays.
On top of page 27, We have ordinance calendar number 34,434 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate grant funds to the fire department for the purchase of a foam firefighting trailer to have the capabilities to provide protection to the Port of New Orleans and surrounding areas while transporting vast quantities of hazardous materials and chemicals daily, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The fiscal note was received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is companion ordinance. I've moved for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. Thank you. 5 yeas, no nays.
We're heading to
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,435 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,265 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate State Act 397 funds to the Office of the Mayor for Public Safety Support Services to install at least 5 public safety cameras and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Move for approval. Second by Councilmember Harris. How about we just say 5 yeas? Oh, there we go. 5 yeas, no nays.
On top of page 28, we have ordinance calendar number 34,436 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate State Act 397 funds to the Office of the Mayor for Public Safety Support Services to install at least 5 public safety cameras and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Again, the companion ordinance. I've moved for approval. Second by Councilmember Harris. Five yeas, no nays.
Aye.
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 It's frozen.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,440 has been deferred to December 1st. On top of page 29, we have ordinance calendar number 34,445 by council members Harris, Moreno, Morel, Jeruso, King, Green, and Thomas. An ordinance to preserve and create affordable housing through the establishment of Division 54 and Chapter 70, Article 3 of the Code of the City of New Orleans, called the New Orleans Housing Trust Fund, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm actually really excited about this, and I'm excited that all 7 council members have signed on to this legislation. This ordinance will establish the Housing Trust Fund. Despite a great need for housing, we do not dedicate an annual amount of city dollars to creating and maintaining affordable housing. Most of the funding that the city currently gives out through OCD has restrictions that make it unavailable for many projects. This Housing Trust Fund will allow the city more flexibility to fund projects that create desperately needed affordable housing. I and my team regularly meet with developers who would like to work on affordable housing projects, but due to the rising costs of materials, financing options, and insurance, the numbers just do not work out to cover the costs of the projects. My hope is that this will fill those gaps and allow for the creation of affordable housing, as well as the maintenance of existing units that can be costly to upkeep. Councilmember Jeruso, I want to thank you for the 32 million allocated in this past year's budget to have gap financing for 14 affordable housing projects. What I'm hopeful is that this will continue that trend to allow us to create affordable housing on a yearly basis. So again, thank you to my fellow council members and the housing advocates who really pushed this forward. And thank you to Allison and Liz on my team who have worked tirelessly on affordable housing and homelessness issues. I do have several comments, including Terry North, Michael Eric Burnside, and Mr. Southall.
Good afternoon. I'm Terry North. I'm CEO of Providence Community Housing. The last time I appeared before you guys, we were talking about $32 million that you guys voted in favor of and supported for affordable housing. That is now out in a notice of funding availability right now on the street for people to apply into to get their projects done. And so I want to continue to thank you for that. And I asked you guys to take the next step and make this permanent. And this does need to be permanent. Housing is foundational. Stable housing allows for a host of other concerns to be addressed. And without it, it compounds a lot of the issues we have. So really making this a part of the annual budget and trying to put good money in towards that is going to address a lot of things that you deal with on the regular basis. And I just want to say too, that having these kinds of funds is absolutely essential. The state is going to be allotting very soon IDA disaster money. But IDA disaster money is not going to be exclusive to the city of New Orleans. It's going to go to other parishes, et cetera. And New Orleans will get a small percentage of that money. And we have not seen a significant amount of money from those types of state allocations in a very long time. So this city needs to take responsibility and take a bigger part in producing affordable housing. And I see this as an excellent step towards that. And I thank you for it.
Thank you. I don't see Mr. Burnside, so Mr. Southall.
Good afternoon, City Council and everyone in the audience. My name is Yasin Frank Southall, Organizing Community Engagement Manager at Jane Place. Thank you so much for working on this critical issue. We've said that this need to happen for multiple years, and so we're so grateful this is happening. We support the establishment of the Housing Trust Fund for many of the reasons mentioned by you, Councilmember Harris. But very critical, we see this as an issue affecting our most vulnerable residents. And so we want to make sure there's some prioritization in terms of building new stock, in particular, looking at unhoused communities, which I've talked about before. Immigrants, we see in mid-city huge issues because that's where we build affordable housing with our undocumented community in particular, and opportunity youth. As well as single adults in between the ages of 40 and 60. Those are usually the calls that I get from those groups of people. Sometimes I get calls from people speaking languages I can't even identify. So we're very grateful for y'all working on this, because before we can address any issues with the unhoused population, we have to, as a city, invest deeply in the creation of new and renovated housing stock. And so I just feel very grateful that this is not something I have to complain about. So thank you all so much.
I'm grateful too. Councilmember Jeruso.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really thank you, Councilmember Harris, for bringing this, but also Terry, Frank, Monique, Maxwell, and others who consistently push for this. And, look, we're in the middle of budget season right now. And so we hear so much about poverty and housing and other needs that obviously having the $32 million in this is a separate push to try and do all the things that advocacy groups are pushing for. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councilmember Jeruso. Any online comments?
We have 5.
Are they long?
No, I don't think so.
All right, can you go ahead and read all 5?
Sure. This is, first one is from Patrick Dario. He says, thanks for doing this. Good job. Then we have Monique Lawson with the Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center. She says, as Director of Policy at Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center, I'm very pleased to share our enthusiastic support for the creation of the Housing Trust Fund. I greatly appreciate every member's commitment to funding the city's housing needs with their co-authorship of Councilmember Harris's ordinance. This is a smart step in the right direction, and we need a fund with more flexible uses to address our housing needs in New Orleans. With the creation of this fund, we have the opportunity to concretely demonstrate our commitment to housing funding by annually allocating city dollars into the Housing Trust Fund. Thank you, Councilmember Harris, for her initiative. Then we have Nellie Katzen with the Committee for Better New Orleans. She says, thank you, Councilmember Harris, for championing the Housing Trust Fund, and to your fellow council members for your support. This is a badly needed investment. CBNO has gathered residents' needs from the city budget for nearly a decade, and housing consistently emerges as the most urgent need. Meanwhile, year after year, hardly any of our $700+ million in general funds go to housing. We can see and feel the lack of investment in our neighborhoods. The rents keeps getting higher and higher. Our economy still hasn't recovered from COVID. Homelessness is rampant, and federal housing funding isn't flexible enough to cover the crisis. This was the beauty of the Neighborhood Housing Fund millage before it expired. It provided unrestricted gap funding and allowed the city to respond to housing crises as they unfold. It's through the flexible funding that we were able to stop the bleeding after COVID and jump to providing rental assistance for our most vulnerable residents before most of our peer cities. Now that fund is gone, and without the steady and consistent stream of funding, the city has lost the ability to meet our residents' needs, most critical needs. This fund would allow the city to answer residents' call for affordable housing, preserve and rehab rental units, prevent foreclosures, and keep people in their homes. Where we put our money is what we value. The fund will prove to the people of New Orleans that the city's listening and give us the capacity to address our urgent housing needs. We wholeheartedly support this initiative. Sam Levin says, where's the money for the Housing Trust Fund coming from? How does the fund differ from the NHIF? How can we ensure if it won't be unused or eliminated in the same way the NIF was? And finally, Joseph Hareen Mueller from Unity of Greater New Orleans, as a paid representative, says, I'd like to thank and encourage the council for the creation of the Housing Trust Fund to preserve and create affordable housing throughout the city. Housing affordability is the major factor in a community's rate of homelessness, but housing affordability affects people of all walks of life. The fair market rent for a one-bedroom is now $11.49, but a family at 30% of the area median income can only afford a $614 apartment. This trust fund is an important step in ensuring that New Orleans remains a community that can be a safe and secure home to vulnerable and disabled folks for whom increases in housing costs can be the most threatening. And that's it for the online comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. You submitted a card.
As always, my name is Albert Truett Talk. Always here represent three groups: the Jude, Merge, POCC, Prisoner Council Committee. It's so important, that y'all talk about the issue as release the homeless in a genuine manner. Yeah. Get long before Hurricane America, aka Katrina. The city of New Orleans has been regentrified, under Mark administration. He created a gimmick, that later allowed to push black folks out and bring white folks in. And pose, Hurricane America, this what they've been doing, like 90, every day, back every day, that's what's been on the agenda, pushing black folks out and bringing white folks in. So, when you talk about, in a sense, creating this, I don't know, I don't want to put it in the form of gimmick. This is your pet peeve. Just make sure, that it's genuine. That it's going to bring black folks to the table, who the victim, of, this gentrification thing. You know, folks losing their house. Folks, you know, you talking about insurance, so they're talking about insurance, talking about just trying to get money from the bank to hold on to your property. I remember one of the value of had city halls, I haven't seen nothing done with it yet. I know you were saying something about, reference to, those individuals who, you have property in New Orleans. You know, you no longer can just simply hold them up. At some point in time, you have to put them in time to talk about that. You know, I mean, talk about it. A lot of folks, they like, you know, they don't know what's coming. You know, we come here for we've been coming here for decades, you know? So we try to watch what y'all say.
Yeah.
But talk about what's really taking place. So the mask can be, you know, or we know a lot, in our community, we see a lot of our people building out houses because they ain't got the money.
So
renovated, you know, bank won't give us no money.
Thank you.
We put money in the bank, but they don't give us no money at the end of the day. You know? So talk about it now. And again, as I'm saying, you know, make sure, you know, you bring black people to the table.
Thank you.
And grassroots people. And we ain't talking about corporations, we're talking folks that in, we're talking about folks who are on the sidewalk.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green.
I just want to encourage community groups and people who are interested in providing support to those who have housing needs to recognize that when the city council creates funds, just as the recreation and culture fund, this housing fund and others, that money and those funds are made available through advertisements, and we have to use the regular sources of advertisement based on the public process, which many times is going to be the Advocate. Or, for example, if you get my newsletter, we put things out in the council members' newsletters. But I do want to encourage those who see these funds being created to recognize that it's an opportunity for all to submit bids. Maybe we get churches together, maybe we get some community groups together, maybe we find somebody who is interested in development and we partner with them, as some pastors have done on a development that I'm involved with. I just want to encourage us to recognize that that's why these funds are set aside, but they are done through a process, and everybody should participate in the process. That's the only way we can guarantee the funding going into the areas where people have a need, is if those people who represent areas of need submit applications. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. And as you pointed out, this housing trust fund can be used not only to create new affordable housing, but to rehabilitate old housing into affordable housing. So that's exactly what we're talking about. I've moved, it's been seconded, and we have 5 yeas. So thank you all for your help on this.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Ordinance calendar number 34,446 has been deferred to November 16th. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 34,447, Councilmember Green. An ordinance to temporarily waive certain fees, permit fees, and requirements within and around Desire Flood Multiple Service Center located at 3250 Industry Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70112, in conjunction with the Thrive New Orleans on October 26, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. through 6:30 p.m. to specify the duration and boundaries of said waiver and to provide otherwise with respect thereto.
This would be a very quick item, and it's going to be, but it's important that some organizations are recognizing that we are bringing this issue up. And so I want to say thanks to them. This is an ordinance for a fee waiver, but just not any fee waiver. There was a thank you dinner for participants in a study that took place this summer, and they were analyzing the urban heat island effect using working with individuals from the district. So the event facilitated conversations concerning the impacts of heat on vulnerable communities and solutions to mitigate the effects of climate change. So I want to say thank you. It was a collaborative effort between IC Change, Johns Hopkins, and the Rand Institute, with support from community partners, including Thrive NOLA, the Water Collaborative, and the Alliance for Affordable Energy. The reason that I brought that up is because I want to mention their names to let you know that the public will see a result of the heat study that has been done, which severely impacts especially low to moderate income areas in a variety of ways, utility bills, but also just quality of life. But I also want to thank them for choosing the Desire Florida Multi-Service Center, a beautiful center at the corner of Johnny Jackson and also Florida Avenue that I want people to look at and use as often as possible, because that is why it was built, for just this type of activity. So I move for approval, seconded by Council President Morrell. Member. Oh, I'm sorry. Who?
You have a card?
Well, he's just not here.
Okay.
Mr. Burnside, are you anywhere?
Read to the record though, that he had one.
All right, well, Michael Burnside submitted a card, but he's not here today at this time. So members, if you will vote your machine. 5 yeas and no nays, thank you for your support on this ordinance.
30, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 34,448 has been deferred to November 1st. Ordinance calendar number 34,449 has been deferred to November 1st. Ordinance calendar number 34,450 has been deferred to, oh, I'm sorry. Ordinance calendar number 34,448 has been deferred to December 1st. Ordinance calendar 34,449 has been deferred to December 1st. Ordinance calendar number 34,450 has been deferred to December 1st. On top of page 31, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 34,455 has been deferred to December 1st. Ordinance calendar number 34,456 has been deferred to December 1st. On top of page 32, ordinance calendar number 34,457 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,265 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenue for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate funds to the Department of Police for supplies and equipment and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The fiscal note was received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move for approval. Second by Councilmember King.
We need one more.
We need one more.
Mr. Morrell.
He's coming.
No, we're on this. Page 32.
5 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
Ordinance calendar number 34,458 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate funds to the Department of Police for supplies and equipment and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I move, Councilmember Morrell seconded. Please vote your machines.
One more vote.
One more.
Sorry.
5 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,459 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,265 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate grant funds to the Office of Resilience and Sustainability within the Office of the Mayor for Safety and Transportation Study and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Move for approval. Seconded by Councilmember King. Thank you. One more. 5 yeas, no nays.
On top of page 33, ordinance calendar number 34,460 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate grant funds to the Office of Resilience and Sustainability within the Office of the Mayor for the Safety and Transportation Study and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I move for approval, seconded by Councilmember Green, 5 yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,461 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,266 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to transfer funds from the Department of Safety and Permits to the Department of Property Management for moving expenses and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Move for approval. Second by Councilmember King. 5 yeas, no nays.
On top of page 34, motion line over M23-451 has been deferred to November 16th. On top of page 36, we have motion M23-512 by Councilmember Jeruso, tabulating the votes cast in the election held on Saturday, October 14, 2023, parish-wide home rule charter amendment to Article 6, Section 6-102 and 6-104. Votes for 45,744. Votes against 19,371. Total votes 65,115. Majority of the votes for 45,744.
Thank you. I have a card from Mr. Mahdi and I have a note from Mr. Burnside. So Mr. Mahdi, do you want to speak on this item, sir? No, you good? All right. Thank you very much. I'll note that you're here and waiving speaking. Mr. Burnside wanted me to say, and he's right on both points, that this language is written in legalese. So the first one is approving the budget extension, and the second that we'll vote on in a moment is consolidating code enforcement. And he wanted me to say that this isn't celebrating victory, but hopefully a new start for all residents. He's right on both counts. Councilmember Green, you want to say something?
Well, it's kind of a celebration of victory. I don't want to take away from that. It gives the public more opportunity to see the budget and to participate in the workings of it. It gives an extra month. It also works to benefit the public in other ways. So sometimes we can say, and I say to Councilman Jeruso, congratulations and thank you. It's a victory for the public. It's a victory for the public to have more time to be able to analyze the budget. It's a victory for the city council to be able to have more time spread out relative to hearings. So that's just a good thing. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
And before Mr. Mahdi starts, I mean, it's unusual to have matters where basically everybody supported that. And I think that speaks to kind of the common sense and good government nature of this. Mr. Mahdi, you did want to speak.
Yeah, I did on code enforcement.
That's the next one, sir. That's the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give us 2 seconds. We'll get right to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mahdi. All right. So, on budget, 3, waiting on 2 more votes. 1 more.
Mr. President.
5 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, we have motion M23-513 by Councilmember Jeruso, tabulating the votes cast in the election held on Saturday, October 14, 2023, parish-wide home rule charter amendment to Article 4, Section 4-702 and 4-801. Votes for 47,828. Votes against 17,766. Total votes 65,594. Majority of votes for 47,828.
All right, Mr. Mahdi, you said you want to speak on this item, sir.
Yeah, I definitely George Mahdi, Neighborhood Unity and Merge. definitely want to talk about this because we're talking about code enforcement. And we have a whole lot of problems with what y'all doing with the home charter procedures in terms of public speaking and special orders of presentation. Now, y'all have been arbitrarily using this process to deny us public comment. That's got to stop. There's got to be some legal inferences regarding that, because you're making up the rules as we go along. We're in a public hearing, in a public venue. We have a right to talk on the subjects that are pertinent to the Black community and pertinent to the community at large. And, we're not getting the time. First of all, we come in, we only get 2 minutes to talk. That's neither here nor there, because, you have that leverage to do so. But, when we're talking, when you're putting these things in special orders of business about community issues like crimes, education, and such, we are not allowed to speak, and we hold that objectionable. This is something that we're going to look in terms of finding what legal processes at work that keep us from being able to speak on subjects that are of interest to the Black community and the public at home. So, this is something that we're going to come back and forth to talk about at times until, y'all come to some type of realization that these issues are vital to the public and we have to have the input to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muddy. All right, members. 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you all very much.
At the top of page 37, we have motion M23-514 by Councilmember Thomas, adding Councilmember Green, tabulating the votes cast in the election held on Saturday, October 14, 2023, Lake Willow Subdivision Improvement District proposition. Votes for 86, votes against 60, total votes 146. Majority of the votes for 86.
Thank you, fellow members of the council. I stand for Councilman Thomas at this time. This Lake Willow, of course, is in New Orleans East, and I'm just pleased to say that the voters came out in significant numbers in that particular community and voted to vote as you see forward here. So the main thing is that on this proposition, a significant number of voters came out. The votes were in favor for, so I move for approval of 23-514. There's no opportunity for a second, so Councilmember King, will you join me as a second? Yeah. All right, well, let's do it again. All right, Councilman King was a second. Need 5 votes, one more, 5 votes in favor of that motion, and it passes. Thank you, voters of Lake Willow and voters in general, for the participation in this last election.
At the bottom of the page, we have motion M23-517 by Councilmembers Thomas and King, adding the president of the council as a signatory to the memorandum of understanding between the city of New Orleans and TRADOC, and authorizing the president of the council to sign the memorandum of understanding between the city of New Orleans and TRADOC. Council members, we need to suspend Rule 57.
All right. Make a motion to suspend the rules. Second by Councilman Russo. 5 yeas, rules suspended.
Yeah. Okay, council member.
All right. Make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilmember Morrell.
One more.
5 yeas, no nays, motion adopted.
We're now going to the top of page 38. We have resolution R 23-518 by Councilmember Green by request authorizing and approving the assignment of the contract for building 9 metal roof repairs at the Louis Armstrong International Airport, TEH Enterprise LLC.
Members of the council, as you know, that we get involved many times with contracts involving the Louis Armstrong International Airport by code of the city. So in this particular instance, Hurricane Ida caused damage to the Louis Armstrong International Airport. Gertis Architectural LLC entered into a contract with the airport for metal roof repairs on Building 9. Gertis Architectural was unable to procure the financial backing to secure the materials to complete the contract, but is assigning the contract to TEH Enterprises LLC. TEH is already a roofing contractor on several other Hurricane Ida repair contracts at the airport, and accordingly, the Aviation Board submits this resolution to the council for approval, having already voted on it itself. Members, I move for approval of resolution R 23-518. Seconded by Council President Morrell. Members, please vote your machines. 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you very much for your votes and support.
At the bottom of the page, we have motion M 23-524 by Councilmember Morrell, directing and authorizing the president of the council to sign an amendment to the professional services agreement with Spears Consulting Group LLC, extending the current agreement for 1 additional year to expire on August 31st, 2024, and containing such other provisions as may be necessary or desirable to accomplish the purpose of this motion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, this extends our existing contract for 1 year. We are currently in the midst of an appeal to the Civil Service Board on the nature of our public information officer position. When that is resolved, we will re-put that position back out for opportunities to obtain a public information officer. This will allow for Spears Group to continue this year in their current capacity, as well as help with the transition when we get a public information officer in that position. So with that, I'll move to adopt. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Druso. Please vote your machines. Oh, Mr. Green, you want to say something?
We can vote, then I do want to say something. It's only going to take a second. I just want to thank the Spears Consulting Group because I think that they have gone out of their way with regards to certain council communications to get the word out to the public. And I do want to say to that firm, on a separate note, I appreciate their work on a very simple but very complex festival, the Fried Chicken Festival that was held on Lakefront. It was very well attended. Significant revenues were generated from the city of New Orleans, and I was glad to see a lot of subcontractors and vendors participating, especially DBE firms. Thank you.
6 yeas, no nays. On page 39, we have motion M 23-526 by Councilmember Druso, directing the City Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing to consider amending ordinance number MCS 4264 as amended by ordinance number 26,413 MCS as amended, the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of New Orleans to amend and reordain Article 18 Overlay Zoning District to establish a new overlay district named the University Area Design Overlay, the intent of which is to provide design advisory committee review for new residentially zoned structures or major renovations or expansions of residentially zoned structures located in the university area, that being the area generally bounded by South Claiborne Avenue in the north, Nashville Avenue in the east, St. Charles Avenue in the south, and South Carrollton Avenue in the south. The university area design overlay requirements are as follows. Number 1, development plan and design review is required for any enlargement or addition of 10% or more of the existing square footage in accordance with the thresholds of applicability in section 4-5, as well as any additional thresholds of applicability of the University Area Design Overlay District. Number 2, development plan and design review shall only apply to property zone HU-RD1, HU-RD2, HU-RS, HU-RM1, and HU-RM2 as determined by the City Planning Commission and the Department of Safety and Permits. Number 3, design shall be compatible in scale, material, street level uses, and spatial relationships with existing development. Number 4, any new structure or increase of square footage shall not exceed a maximum building height of 30 feet with a maximum of 2 stories. Number 5, waivers of these design requirements may be considered by the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Madam Clerk, my apologies at the end of the meeting for such a long summary. I'm moved for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. Five yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of page 40, we have motion M23-528 by Councilmember King, directing the City Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing to consider a conditional use to permit a small child care center in an HU-RD2 historic urban 2-family residential district on square 32 lot 1114 in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by out of Olivier Street, Alex Street, Valette Street, and Pelican Avenue. Municipal address is 342 Olivier Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have one comment card, Ms. Lisa Drennan.
Hello, my name is Liza Drennan. I am the director of the school that will be expanding into 342 Olivier, and I just wanted to say thank you for your support and your help while we try to expand. Thanks.
Roy, welcome. This time I make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilman Jeruso. Five yeas, no nays. Motion is adopted. Thank you.
Motion.
Councilmember, it's now time to vote to suspend the rules to go to ordinances on first reading.
Moved by me, seconded.
Green, fine. All right.
Ordinance on first reading, ordinance calendar number 34,462 by Councilmember Harris, and ordinance to rescind ordinance number 29,670 MCS to correct an unintentional error in the recitals and to reauthorize the placement of honorary street dedication signage for Henry Professor Longhair Rolenberg along the 1600, 1700, and 1800 blocks of Trafford Court Street from St. Charles Avenue to Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,463 by Councilmember Green by request, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for a term greater than 1 year for the public purpose of developing a comprehensive safety plan to address traffic safety on the roadways of the City of New Orleans as more fully detailed in the cooperative endeavor agreement form attached hereto as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,464 by Councilmember Moreno, an ordinance to amend and reordain Articles 7, 8, 11, 13, 14, 15, 20, 21, and 26 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance number 4264, MCS as amended by ordinance number 26,413, MCS and subsequent amendments to expand the definition and use standards for the community solar opportunities and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 5523, ordinance calendar number 34,465 by Councilmember King by request, An ordinance to provide for the designation of public property which specify areas of the city of New Orleans as a temporary clean zone during the time period beginning at 6 a.m. Monday, April 8, 2024, and ending at 6 p.m. Monday, April 15, 2024, relative to the use of these public areas in conjunction with the 2024 French Quarter Festival and during the time period beginning at 6 a.m. Monday, July 29, 2024, and ending at 6 p.m. Monday, August 5th, 2024, relative to the use of these areas in conjunction with the 2024 Sacramento Summerfest and relative activities and events produced by French Quarter Festivals Incorporated, to provide for a temporary prohibition of certain permits within the clean zone areas, to provide for the temporary prohibition of transactions in certain businesses and or commercial activities in the clean zone areas, to provide for establishment of one or more public participation areas, to provide for the establishment of fines or penalties for the violation of this ordinance, to establish a clean zone as one, the area within the French Quarter as defined in section 166-2 of the Code of the City of New Orleans, and 2, the area generally bounded it's on top of my other one. Generally bounded by the east bank of the Mississippi River, Ern Street, Chapatula Street, Callio Street, Rampart Street, and Elysian Fields Avenue, including Waldenburg Riverfront, Anish Plaza, Louis Armstrong Park, Crescent Park, the Louisiana State Museum, New Orleans Jazz Museum at the Mint, in the airspace above and specified boundaries, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,466 by Councilmember King, an ordinance to amend and reordain sections 110-212 and 110-215 of the Code of the City of New Orleans to permit certain mobile foot, push cart, and animal drawn foot vendors to operate in non-residential zoning districts of the Bucare, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,467 by Councilmember King, an ordinance to temporarily waive certain fees, permit fees, and requirements within and around Morris FX Jeff Senior Recreation Center located at 1320 General de Gaulle Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, in conjunction with the Promise Order Repass event on Saturday, November 4, 2023, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. to specify the durations and boundaries of said waiver and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 468 by council members Harris, Moreno, Morel, Jeruso, King, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to authorize the deposition by the city of New Orleans of a certain parcel of immovable property designated as lots S1 and situated in squares 305, 332, and 341 in the first municipal district of the city of New Orleans, parish of Orleans, state of Louisiana, which property is defined as the city exchange land, and the act of exchange attached here to is Exhibit A, the act of exchange in exchange for a certain parcel of immovable property owned by the state of Louisiana designated as Lot C2 and situated in squares 333 and 340 in a portion of Liberty Street that runs between such squares in the first municipal district of the city of New Orleans, which property is defined as the state exchange land and the act of exchange and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,469 by council members King and Green by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of New Orleans and Ujama Economic Development Corporation, Inc. Ujama for a term of greater than 1 year for the public purpose of establishing the Claiborne Cultural and Innovation District in the city of New Orleans in accordance with the 2018 CCID Master Plan as more fully detailed in the cooperative endeavor agreement form attached here too as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,470 by council members Harris and Morel by request. An ordinance to provide for the establishment of the RDNI Municipal Economic Development District in the city of New Orleans, state of Louisiana, compressed of the immobile property described in Exhibit B attached here to designating the governing authority of the RDNI Municipal Economic Development District, providing for the publication of this ordinance and otherwise to provide respect thereto.
Ordinance calendar 34,471 by Councilmember Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend the ordinance number 29-265 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate state aid funds to the Office of Economic Development within the Office of the Mayor for the Fresh Stop Market Initiative dedicated to healthy food access and education in the Lower Ninth Ward community and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,472 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29-266 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate state aid funds to the Office of Economic Development within the Office of the Mayor for the Fresh Stop Market Initiative dedicated to healthy food access and education in the Lower Ninth Ward community and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,473 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29-265 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate grant funds to the Department of Health for the New Orleans Community Violence Intervention Program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,474 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29-266 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate grant funds to the Department of Health for the New Orleans Community Violence Intervention Program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,475 by Councilmember Green, an ordinance to temporarily waive certain fees, permit fees, and requirements within and around Lehman Park on the Lafitte Greenway located at 628 North Claiborne Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70112, in conjunction with the Big Easy Bicycle Fest on November 5th, 2023 at 11 a.m. through 6 p.m. to specify the duration and boundaries of said waiver and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,476 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29-265 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2023 to appropriate funds to various departments for other operating expenses and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,477 by council members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29-266 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year twenty twenty-three to appropriate funds to various departments for other operating expenses and otherwise to provide respect thereto. This completes ordinance on first reading.
Those are all the matters on first reading.
Mr. Green moves to adjourn, seconded by Council Russo. All in aye, 5 yeas, 6 yeas, no nays. We are adjourned.